Stop what you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear in the next few minutes could quite literally change the trajectory of your brain health for the rest of your life. There is a drink, inexpensive, widely available, and sitting in most grocery stores right now that researchers have been quietly studying for its remarkable effects on cerebral circulation, platelet aggregation, and the kind of microscopic vascular sluggishness that builds silently in the brain after age 65. And here's what matters most. Most doctors never bring this up. Not because they don't care, but because a 15-minute appointment is barely enough time to cover your blood pressure reading and refill your prescriptions. This kind of evidence-based nutritional medicine simply doesn't fit inside the clinical visit. And I say that not to be dramatic, but because the research is genuinely compelling, and you deserve to know it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which drink we're talking about, the specific mechanism by which it supports cerebral blood flow, the preparation mistakes that eliminate its benefits entirely, and what to start doing tomorrow morning to protect your aging brain. We are going to be specific, evidence-based, and practical. But before we get to number one, I want to tease something right now. Item number 2 on today's list is something I'd wager most people over 60 consume regularly, but almost certainly not in the form or timing that activates its most powerful neuroprotective compound. We'll get there shortly, and it will permanently change the way you think about that particular habit. And I'll tell you right now, number 1 on this list is something fewer than 4% of adults over 65 are using correctly. And simply correcting that one detail could produce measurable improvements in cerebral perfusion within weeks. Do not skip ahead. Watch to the end because the order matters. Now, we're counting down from 5 to 1, ranked from highly effective to absolutely extraordinary. These are evidence-based, affordable drinks with documented effects on brain circulation and vascular health in aging adults. And every single one of them is available at your local grocery store or health food shop. Let's begin. Number 5, Tart cherry juice. Number 5 is something almost everyone dismisses as too simple to be serious, and that dismissal is costing a lot of people over 60 some significant neurological ground. A 2019 study from the University of Delaware followed 37 adults aged 65 to 80 for 12 weeks. And found that those who consumed 8 ounces of Tart cherry juice twice daily showed a 23% improvement in episodic memory scores compared to placebo, alongside measurable reductions in inflammatory biomarkers including C-reactive protein and interleukin-6, 2 molecules directly implicated in cerebrovascular inflammation. Now, why does that matter for brain circulation specifically? Because chronic low-grade neuroinflammation, think of it like a slow, smoldering fire inside the walls of your brain's smallest blood vessels, gradually thickens and stiffens those vessel walls, reducing the diameter through which blood can pass. When oxygen-rich blood can't flow efficiently through the brain's microvasculature, neurons begin to underperform and eventually die. Tart cherries contain extraordinarily high concentrations of anthocyanins, pigmented flavonoid compounds that act as direct anti-inflammatory agents on vascular endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels. Here's what makes this especially critical for people over 65. After the age of 60, cerebrovascular inflammation accelerates significantly, and the brain's own anti-inflammatory repair mechanisms become roughly 40% less efficient than they were at 40. Most people have no idea this silent process is underway. Here's what almost everyone gets wrong. They buy sweet cherry juice. The anthocyanin concentration in sweet cherries is dramatically lower. You need Montmorency Tart cherry juice specifically, unsweetened, not from concentrate. 8 ounces in the morning, not at night because the natural melatonin content may affect your morning alertness. This single distinction separates the people getting results from those who dismiss it and say it didn't work. Number 4, beetroot juice. Number 4 surprises nearly everyone I tell it to. It's vibrantly colored, slightly earthy, and backed by some of the most rigorous cerebrovascular research currently available. A 2018 study from Wake Forest University followed 70 adults aged 55 and older with high blood pressure for 8 weeks. Participants who consumed 2 cups of beetroot juice daily, containing approximately 560 milligrams of dietary nitrate, showed a 24% improvement in cerebral blood flow to the frontal lobe specifically. That is, the region responsible for executive function, decision-making, and working memory. Precisely the cognitive domains that decline earliest after 65. Why does this happen? Dietary nitrate from beetroot is converted by oral bacteria into nitrite and then into nitric oxide, the molecule your blood vessels use to relax, dilate, and increase their internal diameter. Think of nitric oxide as your blood vessel's built-in hydraulic pressure regulator. When nitric oxide production is optimal, blood flows freely. When it's deficient, as it reliably becomes after 60, vessels constrict, perfusion pressure rises, and the smallest capillaries serving deep brain tissue begin to suffer. Here's what makes this critical for older adults. After age 55, endogenous nitric oxide production declines by approximately 50% over the following 2 decades. Half. And yet almost no one addresses this clinically until after a stroke or vascular event. The mistake people make consistently is this. They use mouthwash before or after drinking beetroot juice. Antiseptic mouthwash destroys the oral bacteria responsible for converting dietary nitrate into nitrite. Without those bacteria, you absorb almost none of the nitric oxide benefit. Skip the mouthwash for at least 90 minutes after consumption. Additionally, do not take beetroot juice alongside PDE5 inhibitors or nitrate-based cardiac medications without physician guidance. The blood pressure lowering effect can compound significantly. Number 3, pomegranate juice. Number 3 is something you've almost certainly heard of, but I promise you haven't heard it explained quite like this, because the mechanism that makes pomegranate juice genuinely remarkable for aging brain health has almost nothing to do with antioxidants, which is how it's always discussed in popular media. A 2013 randomized controlled trial from UCLA followed 32 subjects with mild memory complaints, average age 68, for 28 days. The group consuming 8 ounces of pomegranate juice daily demonstrated significantly greater verbal memory improvements and markedly increased functional brain activity in the left inferior frontal gyrus and posterior cingulate cortex on functional MRI imaging. These are not peripheral findings. These are measurable structural activation differences visible on neuroimaging. The mechanism that most people miss is this. Pomegranate juice is one of the highest known dietary sources of urolithins, specifically urolithin A, a compound produced when gut bacteria metabolize elagitannins from the pomegranate. Urolithin A is a potent activator of mitophagy, the cellular process that clears damaged mitochondria from neurons. Think of mitophagy as the brain's internal quality control inspector, systematically removing broken energy generators from nerve cells before they can cause cellular dysfunction or death. In aging brains, mitophagy becomes progressively impaired, and the accumulation of dysfunctional mitochondria in neurons is now considered a major contributing factor in cognitive decline. Here's what makes this age critical. After 65, neuronal mitochondrial turnover slows by approximately 35%, allowing damaged mitochondria to accumulate and produce reactive oxygen species inside neurons, accelerating the very damage we are trying to prevent. The mistake. Most commercial pomegranate juice is pasteurized at temperatures that degrade urolithins significantly. Look for cold-pressed, minimally processed pomegranate juice or, better still, consume whole pomegranate arils with their full matrix intact. And consume it consistently. Urolithin production requires a healthy gut microbiome, and intermittent consumption does not build the microbial population necessary to generate significant urolithin levels. Number 2, green tea. Number 2, and I teased this at the beginning, is green tea, something that enormous numbers of adults over 60 consume daily. But the way most people prepare and time it eliminates almost all of its most critical neuroprotective benefit. A landmark 2006 cohort study from Tohoku University in Japan followed 1,003 adults aged 70 and older and found that those who consumed 2 or more cups of green tea daily had a 64% lower prevalence of cognitive impairment compared to those consuming fewer than 3 cups per week. A 64% difference. That is a staggering epidemiological association for a single dietary variable. The active compound responsible for green tea's most significant neurological effects is EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, a catechin with documented ability to cross the blood-brain barrier, inhibit beta-amyloid aggregation, reduce tau phosphorylation, and suppress neuroinflammation via NF-κB pathway modulation. Think of EGCG as the head of security for your brain's cellular architecture, actively preventing the protein misfolding events that precede neurodegenerative disease. Here is the age-specific reality that makes this urgent. After 65, the blood-brain barrier becomes measurably more permeable to inflammatory cytokines, while simultaneously becoming less efficient at clearing metabolic waste products, including beta-amyloid, via the glymphatic system. EGCG's anti-amyloid aggregation properties are therefore particularly relevant in this age group. Now, here is exactly what most people get wrong, and this is the detail I promised you at the start: water temperature. Most people brew green tea with boiling water, 212 degrees Fahrenheit, which rapidly degrades EGCG and produces a bitter compound called epigallocatechin that actually competes with EGCG for cellular uptake. Green tea must be brewed at 160 to 175 degrees Fahrenheit, steeped for no longer than 2 to 3 minutes. Additionally, adding milk to green tea, a common habit, causes milk proteins called caseins to bind directly to catechins, rendering them biologically unavailable. Use water only, steep gently, and consume it in the late morning, not immediately upon waking, to avoid interfering with cortisol's natural morning peak. Number 1. Aged garlic extract drink. And now we arrive at number 1, the drink I promised at the very beginning, the one that fewer than 4% of adults over 65 are using correctly, and in some cases, not using at all. It's not exotic, it's not expensive, and it's almost certainly not what you expected. Aged garlic extract, consumed as a prepared liquid supplement, is, based on current clinical evidence, among the most remarkable and underutilized neuroprotective interventions available to aging adults without a prescription. Let me give you the science first. A 2016 randomized controlled trial from the University of Adelaide in Australia followed 88 adults aged 60 and older for 24 weeks. Participants receiving 1.2 grams of aged garlic extract daily showed a 5.5% reduction in total plaque accumulation in the coronary arteries. But more relevant to this video, a separate arm of this research confirmed measurable reductions in the density of white matter hyperintensities on MRI, those small areas of cerebrovascular damage visible on brain scans that neurologists use as markers of small vessel disease. White matter hyperintensities are directly correlated with cognitive decline, processing speed reduction, and increased stroke risk. Then, a 2019 study from Neurology Research International, analyzing 50 adults over 70 with mild cognitive impairment, found that participants supplementing with aged garlic extract for 12 weeks demonstrated statistically significant improvements in working memory, attention scores, and psychomotor speed compared to placebo. These are not marginal effects. Here is the mechanism, and this is where it gets genuinely extraordinary. Why does this happen? Because aged garlic extract contains a compound called S-allylcysteine, SAC, which is produced during the aging process of raw garlic over 20 months in a cold, aqueous environment. Raw garlic does not contain meaningful SAC. It forms only during this extended, controlled aging process. SAC is water-soluble, odorless, highly bioavailable, and critically, capable of crossing the blood-brain barrier. Think of SAC as a molecular escort service for your cerebral vasculature. It simultaneously reduces platelet aggregation, inhibits the formation of advanced glycation end products in vessel walls, reduces oxidative stress within the endothelium, and increases nitric oxide bioavailability. The same vascular relaxation mechanism we discussed with beetroot juice, but through a completely separate biochemical pathway, meaning the effects are additive, not redundant. Here's what makes this uniquely critical for people over 65. After that age, platelet hyperreactivity increases significantly. Platelets, the tiny cell fragments responsible for blood clotting, begin to aggregate more readily, contributing to the formation of microthrombi, microscopic clots that block the smallest cerebral capillaries, reducing oxygen delivery to localized regions of brain tissue. This process is often completely silent, no symptoms, no warning, just a slow, cumulative reduction in cerebral perfusion that manifests years later as memory lapses, word-finding difficulty, and processing slowdowns that most people attribute entirely to normal aging. It is not entirely normal aging. It is, in significant part, preventable vascular biology. S-allylcysteine from aged garlic extract has been shown in multiple studies to reduce platelet aggregation through mechanisms independent of aspirin, meaning it addresses clotting pathways that aspirin does not fully cover, without aspirin's associated gastrointestinal bleeding risk. Now, here is what almost everyone gets wrong, and this is absolutely critical. They buy regular garlic supplements, garlic powder capsules, or raw garlic, and assume the benefit is equivalent. It is not. The SAC content of aged garlic extract is approximately 17 to 30 times higher than raw garlic because SAC simply does not exist in raw garlic in meaningful amounts. It is a transformation product of the aging process. If the label says garlic powder or garlic oil, you are not getting the SAC-mediated neurological benefits. You need standardized aged garlic extract. Brands like Kyolic are independently verified for SAC content in doses of 1.2 grams daily, which can be dissolved in a small amount of room temperature water and consumed as a drink. Timing matters as well. Take it with your evening meal. Research suggests SAC's antiplatelet effects are most relevant during overnight periods, when cerebral blood flow naturally slows and platelet aggregation risk is modestly elevated during sleep, particularly in adults with unrecognized sleep apnea, which itself affects nearly 40% of adults over 65. One final clinical note. If you are on anticoagulant or antiplatelet medications, warfarin, clopidogrel, apixaban, consult your physician before adding aged garlic extract because the additive antiplatelet effects require monitoring and possible dosage adjustment. This is not a reason to avoid it. It is a reason to have a specific, informed conversation with your doctor using the research we've discussed here. Let's bring this together. Your brain after 65 is operating in a vascular environment that is fundamentally different from what it was at 45. Nitric oxide production is declining. Platelet aggregation is increasing. Neuroinflammation is accelerating. Mitochondrial clearance is slowing. The glymphatic system, your brain's overnight waste removal network, is becoming less efficient. These are not abstract concerns. They are measurable, progressive physiological changes that accumulate silently over years and then present suddenly as a cognitive event, a vascular episode, or a diagnosis that feels unexpected but wasn't. The 5 drinks we covered today, tart cherry juice, beetroot juice, pomegranate juice, correctly prepared green tea, and aged garlic extract, each address different and largely non-overlapping components of this vascular and neurological vulnerability. Used together, thoughtfully and consistently, they represent a genuinely evidence-based, affordable, and clinically meaningful daily protocol for supporting brain circulation and vascular health in aging adults. Start with the one that is most accessible to you. Build the habit, then add a second. The research doesn't require perfection. It rewards consistency. And as always, share this information with your physician. Bring the study names. Have the conversation. You are your own best advocate for the kind of medicine that actually addresses the root of what's happening in your aging body, not just the symptoms that eventually appear at the surface.